I've always been the kind of guy who keeps his head down, gets things done, and doesn't stir the pot. 20 years at Langford and Myers taught me that sticking to your lane is safer. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't loud. I was reliable, which is probably why it stung more than I expected. It was a Friday night in late March, just after midnight. The apartment was dark, except for the city's glow leaking through the blinds. I was scrolling through emails I didn't want to read when a message popped up from Emily Tran, the junior analyst. I'd mentored since she was fresh out of college. Subject line, thought you should see this before Monday. Just that. No body text, just an attachment labeled companypartyvid.mp4. I clicked, and there she was, Jessica Langford, my boss of 2 decades. A woman with perfect posture, a glass of scotch in hand, and a voice that could shatter confidence like glass. She was in the middle of our company's annual staff mixer, surrounded by the usual sycophants, and I was the punchline. Nathan Carter? She slurred with a tight smile. That man's a useless fossil. We're cutting him next month. He won't see it coming. Laughter. Awkward at first, then louder. James, sorry, Katrina. Our CFO was right next to her, nodding along like a wind-up doll. Nobody flinched. Nobody defended me. I replayed the video. Once, twice, a third time. I wasn't looking at her anymore. I was watching the others. Their faces, their silence, the complicity. 20 years of weekends lost, reports rewritten, client crises smoothed over, and this was my curtain call? A drunken roast? At first, I felt nothing. Then it hit. A cold, controlled anger that felt sharper than anything I'd known. Jessica thought I was harmless, loyal, predictable. She was wrong. That night, I didn't sleep. I paced. I mapped out timelines in my head. I remembered files, emails, details, the things only someone who does everyone else's work remembers. When the sun finally crawled over the skyline, I was sitting at my desk, a plan already stitching itself together. Jessica wanted a show? She had no idea I was about to take the stage. Monday morning hit like any other. Burnt coffee in the office kitchenette, keyboards clacking like nervous teeth, and the soft hum of too many fluorescent lights. I walked into Langford and Myers at 7:55 a.m. sharp, just like always. Same routine, same desk, same people, but nothing was the same. My suit was sharper, my expression calmer. On the outside, I was still Nathan Carter, dependable senior analyst, team player, background guy. On the inside, though, I was already rolling the dice. Jessica's door was open, of course. She liked it that way. It gave her a sense of omnipresence. She was laughing with Katrina Holmes, our CFO/chief enabler. From the sound of it, Jessica was still riding high from her little stand-up routine at the party. I stepped into her line of sight. "Morning, Jessica," I said, voice neutral, just enough charm to pass as casual. She looked up, eyes locking with mine for a second too long. Then came that same smug grin, the one she wore when taking credit for my work or throwing interns under the bus. "Good weekend?" she asked, like we were friends and not in the middle of a silent war. "Very refreshing," I replied, folding the mask back on like second skin. Ready for another productive month. She bought it. Or at least, she wanted to. She leaned back, satisfied. That's the spirit. I walked to my desk, heels echoing behind me from people too junior to speak up, too scared to get involved. I powered up my laptop, opened my email, and began the first phase, watching, logging, compiling. Because Jessica wasn't just careless when drunk, she was careless in general. And I had receipts. That week, I was the model employee. I smiled in meetings, offered insights that made her look good, and stayed late under the guise of dedication. But while the others went home, I stayed back, collecting. Emails where she made legally questionable demands. Reports she signed off on without reading, that I had quietly fixed. Client accounts she'd nearly lost, until I stepped in. I created a folder. named it Administrative Backups. Innocent enough. Inside it, her career unraveling one file at a time. Meanwhile, the first started making calls. Discreet ones. Old clients. The kind who knew me by name, not by position. I dropped hints, just enough to plant seeds. And every single one of them said the same thing, Nathan. If you ever leave, we're following you. I didn't need revenge right away. What I needed was leverage. And by the end of week 2, I had enough rope to build a ladder. Or tie a noose. 2 weeks in, and I'd perfected the art of invisible sabotage. I came in early. I stayed late. I answered emails with prompt precision and offered just the right amount of enthusiasm in meetings. People saw what they wanted to see: Nathan Carter, steady hand, team player. Predictable, boring. That was my camouflage. Behind the curtain, I was orchestrating something a little less boring. While Jessica strutted through the office, high on ego and espresso, I built my arsenal. Every late night was another thread in the net. I sifted through old files, archived reports, and hundreds of company-wide emails she'd sent over the years, poorly worded, occasionally aggressive, and frequently condescending. If you ever want to bury someone in a corporate setting, start with their sent mail folder. Katrina, our CFO, was another goldmine. She'd rubber-stamped Jessica's worst ideas for years. Financial reports with phantom projections, budgets padded to make our growth targets sparkle. I'd been fixing those numbers quietly, out of habit. This time, I saved every spreadsheet, every edit, every correction. The thing about working in the shadows for so long is that eventually, you learn where all the bodies are buried. And I had a map, but I wasn't relying on paper alone. One afternoon, I texted Oliver Daniels, a labor attorney I'd met at a tech seminar 2 years ago. Sharp suit, sharper mind. We met at a coffee shop on 8th Street, where the cappuccinos were overpriced, but the seats were quiet. I laid it out, not everything, just the bones. He leaned forward, stirring his espresso like it was part of a ritual. So you've got documentation, prior evidence of credit misattribution, a hostile work environment, and, he paused, raising an eyebrow, potential breach of non-compete language? I nodded. And maybe, just maybe, some data on client retention strategies I created without acknowledgement. He tapped his notepad. Nathan, you're sitting on a goldmine. You play this right, and not only are you walking away clean, you could walk out with leverage. I walked out of that cafe with his card in my wallet, and something else in my pocket: direction. That night, I pulled out my old contact list and dialed the number I'd been holding off on. The voice on the other end was cool, efficient. Pierce and Associates, this is Charlotte speaking. Charlotte Bell, I said, smiling. Nathan Carter. I think we might have a mutual interest in some transitions. A beat of silence. Then, Nathan, I've been waiting for this call. Charlotte was the VP of Pierce's business acquisition division, and more importantly, she hated Jessica Langford's smug face almost as much as I did. Over the next few days, we exchanged documents, projections, and NDA-covered conversations that would have made Jessica's legal team break into hives. Charlotte didn't mince words. You come here, Nathan, and I'll make sure we're not just poaching clients. We're bleeding Langford and Myers dry, one contract at a time. I didn't need to hear more. Meanwhile, I kept the act going at Langford. I was the ghost in the machine, responding to Katrina's faux-friendly, just checking in messages with professional politeness, nodding at Jessica in the hallway, like she hadn't called me a washed-up nobody 2 weeks ago. Then came Friday. At precisely 7:00 p.m., the office nearly empty, I sent out 2 emails. The first went to Charlotte. Subject line: Client Alignment Strategy. Attached was a list of high-value accounts I'd managed over the past decade, including detailed notes on their renewal cycles, pain points, and the subtle ways Jessica had jeopardized their trust. All things I'd fixed. Quietly, repeatedly. The second email was to Thomas and Blake Financial Group, one of our largest clients, and one of the few who had always referred to me, not Jessica, as their anchor. Hi, Charlotte. Just wanted to thank you for the years of collaboration. I'll be transitioning into a new consulting role soon and would love to stay in touch. If there's anything I can help with on your end, let's set up a call. Best, Nathan. I didn't hit send immediately. I stared at the screen, fingers hovering over the key. This wasn't just an email. It was the first domino. Then I clicked send. The next morning, I woke to a string of texts from Emily Tran. Emily, 6:47 a.m. Nathan, something's up. Emily, 6:49 a.m. I think Thomas pulled their contract. Emily, 6:50 a.m. Jessica is losing her mind. Screaming in the boardroom. Katrina's hiding in her office. I leaned back, sipping my coffee as the sun came through the blinds. Good. It had begun. That Monday, I arrived at work early. Again, because consistency breeds blindness. Jessica was already in. So was Derek from HR, pacing with a manila folder, like he'd been handed a live grenade. By 3:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a company-wide Slack notification. Nathan Carter, please report to the executive office. The trap had finally been triggered. I walked across the floor, calm as ever. As I stepped into Jessica's office, she tried to flash that same confident smile. But there was something brittle behind it now, something cracking. Derek was seated already, folder open. Jessica folded her hands. Nathan, we appreciate your loyalty to this company. Ah, the speech. But due to restructuring and budget changes, your position is being phased out. I nodded. I see. Derek slid the severance papers forward, like we were discussing lunch options. Jessica leaned forward, voice all faux sympathy. I know this must be hard. I cut her off with a smile. It's not. She blinked. I stood, collected the folder, and tucked it under my arm. Thank you for your time, Jessica. It's been educational. I walked out of that office without looking back. She had no idea what I'd just set in motion. The moment I stepped out of Langford and Myers with that severance folder in hand, I knew I'd never walk back through those glass doors as an employee again. I didn't walk out bitter. I walked out free. They thought they'd cornered me. Jessica thought she'd executed a quiet termination, just another name removed from the payroll before the next quarterly review. She didn't realize she'd just fired the only person holding her company together. I went home that night and did exactly what I'd planned. I opened my private backup drive, a little silver rectangle that had traveled with me for the past 6 months. It contained every contract I'd negotiated, every spreadsheet I'd corrected, every email chain where I'd politely revised. Jessica's incoherent responses into something clients wouldn't laugh at. At 9:00 p.m., I uploaded it all into a single, clean zip file. Then I opened a new email. To Thomas and Blake Financial Subject, Independent Consulting Availability. Hi, Thomas. As you may have heard, I'm no longer with Langford and Myers. I'm exploring new opportunities as an independent consultant. If you're interested in discussing how I can continue supporting your portfolio, let's schedule a call. Warm regards, Nathan Carter Send. The next morning, my phone lit up at 6:52 a.m. with a message from Charlotte Bell at Pierce & Associates. 3 of your top 5 just called to request transition paperwork. Jessica's going to bleed by noon. I smiled, poured a fresh cup of coffee, watched the sun rise over a city that had no idea a corporate implosion was already underway. By 8:15 a.m., Emily texted me. Jessica just called Katrina into the war room. Everyone's panicking. No one knows why Thomas pulled the plug. At 9:00 a.m., I got the call I'd been expecting. Jessica. Her number flashed on my screen like a ghost refusing to die. I let it ring once, twice, then picked up with surgical disinterest. Hello? A pause. Then her voice, sharp and forced. Nathan. I heard about Thomas. You reached out? I did, I said, calm, unbothered. Another pause. She laughed nervously. That was inappropriate. You're aware of your NDA, yes? I leaned back in my chair. I haven't breached anything, Jessica. I'm merely consulting. You left less than 24 hours ago. And yet, I replied, they already knew who really did the work. She didn't respond. Anything else? She cursed under her breath. This isn't over. I hung up. By noon, Pierce's legal team had drawn up provisional consulting contracts for Thomas and Blake, as well as two other clients I'd quietly built relationships with over the years. These were accounts Jessica had paraded on her end-of-year success slides, clients I'd closed, retained, and babysat while she took credit. Now, they were gone. The industry's whisper network was already doing its thing. CEOs talk, COOs text. By the time Jessica's board started connecting the dots, it wasn't just one or two accounts. It was momentum. At 2:45 p.m., Katrina tried to message me via LinkedIn. The preview read, "Can we discuss something urgent?" I didn't open it. Instead, I walked into Pierce's headquarters at 4:00 p.m., signed my onboarding paperwork, and was shown to my new office, corner view, natural light, no ego in sight. Logan Pierce himself stopped by. "Carter," he said, offering a firm handshake. "We've been hearing about you for years. I just didn't expect Jessica to hand you to us on a silver platter. She does have a talent for short-sighted decisions," I said. Logan smiled. "She's already spiraling. The market's watching." That night, I got another call from Jessica. This time, I answered on speaker while sipping wine. Her voice was strained. "Nathan, the first need to know what you're saying to people. 4 contracts are in limbo. Our investors are calling an emergency session. I'm not saying anything, Jessica. They're just finally seeing who was behind the curtain. You're ruining me," she hissed. I paused. "No, I'm just no longer fixing your mess." Click. The next morning, the headlines hit. Langford and Myers faces sudden client exodus. CEO, Jessica Langford. Under investor review, Pierce and Associates gains major financial clients in 48-hour sweep. Charlotte texted me. "Want to send her flowers? Or is that too much?" Me. "Too soon. I'll wait until they appoint her replacement." By Friday, Emily let me know Katrina had locked herself in her office for most of the day. Rumor had it Jessica hadn't slept in 2 nights. Their internal legal counsel was panicking. A few junior staff had already updated their LinkedIn profiles. Always the first sign of a company's death rattle. Then, just after 5:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Jessica Langford, let's meet. We can still undo this." I didn't reply. She wasn't looking for a conversation. She was looking for mercy, and I wasn't in that business anymore. By the time Monday arrived, Langford and Myers was hemorrhaging contracts faster than they could issue press releases. 4 major clients were gone. 2 more had frozen negotiations. Katrina Holmes had taken an unexpected leave of absence. And rumor had it Jessica was calling in favors from investors who'd stopped answering her phone calls. Meanwhile, I was sitting in my new corner office at Pierce & Associates, sipping black coffee and reviewing onboarding notes from 3 new client transitions, all previously managed under my name at Langford. At 8:15 a.m., Emily Tran sent one final message. Jessica just stormed into the building. No makeup, no assistant. She looks like she hasn't slept in days. I chuckled. Not with cruelty. Just the strange satisfaction of witnessing justice take the long way around. At 9:00, Charlotte Bell stopped by my office. She leaned on the doorframe, holding a tablet and wearing the kind of grin people only make when the game is already won. She scheduled an emergency board meeting at 11, she said. "The investors are furious. They want her out." I leaned back in my chair. "She won't see it coming." "Oh, she will," Charlotte replied. "But it won't matter." At 2:30 p.m., the news hit. Effective immediately, Jessica Langford has stepped down as CEO of Langford and Myers. The email was cold, brief, and clearly written by legal. No press conference, no video statement, just a resignation announced quietly, the kind that reeks of behind-the-scenes begging and boardroom ultimatums. I read it twice, let the corners of my mouth lift slightly, and went back to work. At 5:17 p.m., my inbox pinged again. Subject line, "Let's talk," from Jessica Langford. The message was longer than I expected, a rambling blend of self-justification and barely disguised panic. "Nathan, things have gotten out of control. I know you're behind this. Let's meet. Figure out a way forward. This doesn't have to be permanent." It was almost sad. Almost. I replied with 3 sentences. "Jessica, there's nothing to fix. Enjoy your week. Send." That night, I poured a glass of wine and watched the city buzz beneath me. This time last month, I'd been a fixture in someone else's machine. Overworked, underestimated, forgotten. Now I was the architect of my own strategy, sitting in the control room while the system I'd propped up for years collapsed under its own fraudulence. But it wasn't quite over. 2 days later, Logan Pierce popped his head into my office. "You've got a visitor." I raised an eyebrow. He gestured behind him. "Jessica Langford." I blinked. "She came here?" Security said she walked in quietly. Said she had an appointment. "Did she?" Logan smirked. "She does now. Want me to toss her?" I shook my head. "No, I'll handle it." A few minutes later, Jessica stepped into my office like someone entering enemy territory without armor. No tailored blazer, no signature lipstick. Just a woman wearing the weight of her own downfall like a soaked coat. She didn't sit, just stood there, blinking too fast. "You really did it," she said, voice rough. "You actually burned it all down." I met her gaze without flinching. "No, you did that. I just stopped putting out the fires." Silence. "I need a job," she said finally. Her voice cracked in the middle of the sentence. I tilted my head slightly, not out of pity, but out of curiosity. "Why come here?" "Because," she paused, swallowing hard, "because everyone else slammed the door." "And you think I'll open it?" Her eyes met mine. "You always fix things, Nathan. You could fix this." I stood, walked around the desk, and faced her directly. "I used to fix things," I said. "For you, for Katrina, for the company, quietly, efficiently, because I believed that doing good work would eventually mean something." "And it did," she said quickly. "It kept us alive. It kept you alive," I cut in. "But you never respected that, never acknowledged it. And now you expect help?" She said nothing, just stared. "I'm not angry, Jessica," I added. "I'm just done." I walked back to my desk and gestured to the door. "You don't need a job," I said calmly. "You need a mirror." That was it. She left without another word. No apology, no defense. Just the soft tap of her flats against tile as she disappeared from my life. For good, this time. Later that week, Pierce's leadership team announced my official title, Senior Partner of Client Strategy, a role I earned, not because I fought for credit, but because I was the credit all along. At 6:45 p.m. that Friday, Emily sent me one last message. Saw the announcement. "You deserve this, Nathan. Thank you for teaching me that playing it safe isn't always the right move." I smiled, closed my laptop, and walked out of the building. No fanfare, no fireworks. Just a quiet man who'd finally stopped cleaning up everyone else's mess and started building his own future. One contract, one conversation, one power move at a time. Because sometimes the loudest revenge is walking away successful while they're still picking up the pieces. Story 2. You ever stare at your phone so long it feels like the screen is looking back at you? That was me. Monday morning, hoodie still clinging to the airport smell, wondering whether my luggage was still in the trunk or buried under someone's beach towel. I should have cared. Instead, I was locked on my banking app like it had personally insulted me. $12,843. That's what it said. A charge from the weekend trip. The group trip. The one I was helping to book. Not organizing. Not funding. Helping. I blinked. Once. Twice. 5 times. No glitch. My account looked like it had just been mugged in broad daylight. Now, here's the thing. I wasn't even surprised. Annoyed? Oh yeah, deeply. Existentially. But surprised? Not even a little. That would have required hope that this time, this one time, my family wouldn't find a way to weaponize my kindness and call it a shared memory. I texted my sister. Me. Hey, just noticed a $12,843 charge from the Airbnb. Were we splitting that? Danielle, it was for everyone. Don't kill the vibe. The vibe, of course. God forbid we disrupt the sacred temple of family aesthetics. She didn't realize it yet, but the music was about to stop. I took a sip of cold coffee, opened my laptop, and started a spreadsheet. Danielle expenses never repaid .excels. One tab in, and I already needed more columns. This wasn't revenge. This was record keeping. Let me back up. I'm Noah, 33, software engineer. Moderately stable adult with a high tolerance for nonsense unless it's financial. And my family? Experts in nonsense. Olympic level. Danielle is 31. Instagram therapist. Not licensed. Just vibes and affirmations. She once tried to invoice me for emotional labor after I drove her across state lines when her car broke down. This trip was supposed to be simple. One house, one weekend. Split costs. Danielle offered to handle the upgrade a day before we left. What she meant, private chef, champagne welcome kits, and a yacht cruise I didn't even attend. She did. With her boyfriend, Travis, who called me bro even when I asked him not to. When the charge hit, I wasn't even mad. I was resolved. This had been a long time coming. Flashback, age 24. Danielle borrows $700 for tuition paperwork she forgot to submit. School wasn't even in session. I never saw the money again. Age 28. She crashes my car, brings it back with a broken taillight and a box of cupcakes as an apology. Age 30. She throws a low-key engagement party for herself in my apartment without asking. 40 people, 1 dog, 0 apologies. So yeah, this wasn't new, just upgraded. Like the Airbnb, I stayed quiet. Not because I was okay with it, but because reacting too fast would have turned me into the villain. That's the trick with people like Danielle. They bait you into explosions and then say, "Why are you being so aggressive?" But on Thursday, she called. "Hey, big bro," she chirped. "No shame, none. Saw your text." Look, I know it's a lot, but you got the points, right? Oh yes, a glorious 900 frequent flyer points. Worth maybe half a coffee at gate 27. You charged 12 grand, I said. But we all benefited, she replied. Come on. You're doing great. Your job's super stable or whatever. I wanted to scream. Instead, I exhaled and said, "Then you'll love what's coming." She laughed. Thought I was joking. Hung up to go house hunting in Lake Tahoe. I opened a folder labeled receipts. Literal receipts. Venmo screenshots. Bank transfers. IOUs. Every spot me this. That never returned. I wasn't going to just send a passive-aggressive group message. I was done playing polite. It was time to make it official. Friday, I met with Mr. Foster, a lawyer whose voice sounded like he's never smiled in a brunch photo. He reviewed everything and gave me a word I hadn't felt in years: leverage. Saturday afternoon, I drove to my parents' place. A casual gathering, which I'd translated long ago as Danielle wants to make an announcement and needs applause. I arrived last. Danielle opened the door in flowing linen, all smiles and innocence. "Noah," she squealed, arms wide. "You made it," I smiled. "Wouldn't miss it." Mark, her boyfriend, was pouring mimosas. Mom was slicing fruit. Dad was, as usual, half involved from behind his tablet. Danielle raised her glass. To family and vibes. I nodded, calm as glass. Then you're going to love this. That's when the floorboards creaked. A heavy set of footsteps approached from the porch, slow, deliberate. Like the house itself was bracing. Danielle didn't notice. She was still riding her influencer high. But I knew who was coming. I invited him. Mr. Foster stepped inside, a crisp envelope in his hand. "Danielle Grant?" he asked. She blinked, confused but still smiling. Yeah? You've been served." The envelope landed in her manicured hands like a thunderclap. Silence. Actual silence. The kind that makes you realize just how loud a room used to be. Mark looked up, glass frozen midair. Mom dropped a strawberry. Dad muttered, "What's this about?" I stood, smoothed my shirt. "That," I said, "is the cost of ignoring boundaries." Danielle just stared, like her brain hadn't booted up yet. Mark grabbed the envelope, opened it. "Read the first line." His face dropped. "You're suing her?" he asked me. "No," I said calmly. "I'm asking for what I'm owed, with interest." Since all the group chats and good vibes didn't quite get the job done, Danielle finally snapped back to life. "You're blowing this way out of proportion." I reached into my bag, pulled out a binder, labeled, color-coded, tabbed by year. "Am I?" I handed it to her, because I've got 47 financial transactions saying otherwise. And that's just the last 5 years. She flipped through the pages, face flushing red. Mom looked horrified. Dad looked like he wanted to go back to his tablet. I let them sit in it. This wasn't just about the money. It was about the pattern, the assumption, the entitlement dressed up as togetherness. "Noah," Mom finally said, soft but pointed. "This isn't the place." "Funny," I replied. "That's what I thought about putting $12,000 in my credit card for your daughter's couples massage." Mark whispered something to Danielle. She snapped at him. The tension cracked like glass under heat. And I stood there, watching it all unravel, not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted freedom, the kind that only comes when you finally say, "Enough." You ever see someone try to blink reality back into place? That was Danielle flipping through that binder, like it might suddenly turn into a wedding magazine. It didn't. She kept scanning page after page, every line item a flashbang of receipts she never thought anyone would keep. Her voice, when it came, was barely above a whisper. "This is crazy." "No," I said, still standing. "What's crazy is thinking I'd never call you out for it." Mark leaned in again, trying to read over her shoulder. I think he expected to find some kind of loophole, a technicality, but all he found was a spreadsheet that could double as a financial memoir complete with timestamps, screenshots, and a separate tab just labeled, "Promised, but never paid." He looked up. "All right, man. Look, this doesn't have to go to court. We can talk about it, yeah?" "We could have," I said, before Danielle told me to not kill the vibe and ghosted me for 4 days. Mom still hadn't moved from behind the fruit plate. She finally set it down like it had suddenly become too heavy. "Honey," she said to me, soft like a scolding, "you could have handled this differently." I turned toward her. "You mean quietly, like always, so no one has to feel uncomfortable." Her mouth tightened. No argument, just that classic disappointed mom's silence that says more than a speech ever could. Dad, still clutching his tablet like a life raft, muttered, "We're supposed to be a family." "Then maybe someone should have started acting like one," I replied. Danielle finally slammed the binder shut. "This is humiliating." I nodded. "It's called accountability." She stood, hands shaking slightly, and hissed, "You've always hated me." That made me laugh. Like, actually laugh. Not out of joy, just disbelief. "No," I said. "I never hated you. I resented you." "There's a difference." The room went quiet again. You could feel the shift, the weird, heavy kind that settles in when people realize the person they've always counted on to stay quiet isn't anymore. I told you I'd pay you back, she added quickly, defensive now. I raised an eyebrow. Right. After you spent 5 years telling me you just need until next Friday or as soon as your brand collab pays out. Do you have a Venmo receipt? A single one? Because I do. All outgoing. She didn't answer, just stared at the table like it might swallow her whole. Mark, to his credit, tried to salvage the wreckage. Okay, what would it take to just settle this? Right now, today. I looked him dead in the eye. Full repayment. Legal fees. Interest. Or we proceed. Danielle's face twisted. You're charging me interest? I shrugged. Same rate the bank would have charged me if I hadn't caught it. But sure, if you prefer I send it to collections, I can do that too. And just like that, the mask cracked. Danielle stormed off into the kitchen, probably to call someone, maybe a lawyer, maybe her Instagram followers. I didn't care. I sat back down. The weight in my chest, the one I'd been dragging around for years, started to lift. Not all the way, but enough. Mark exhaled, sat down across from me. She's not used to consequences. No kidding, I said. Neither are any of you. He glanced at my parents, then back at me. She's still your sister. And I'm still a person. With limits. Welcome to that reality. He nodded slowly. I could tell he didn't like me, but I think for the first time, he respected me. Or at least recognized that I wasn't bluffing. Danielle didn't come back into the room. Mom tried to reheat the brunch like that would fix anything. Dad kept scrolling. Like usual. I stood up, grabbed my bag, and left. No dramatic exit. No door slam. Just me, walking out with my binder under one arm and my dignity finally intact. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. The group chat? Dead. Not a single meme. No good vibes gifs. No photos of cocktails or yoga poses. Just silence. And then, of course, the spin. Danielle sent an email to the family, claiming I'd misunderstood the trip agreement, that I had volunteered to cover things, and then got weird about it afterward. She used phrases like emotional instability and clearly going through something. It was so on brand I actually laughed. No apology. No mention of the $12,843 charge. Just a tidy rewrite of the narrative where she's the loving sister dealing with an unpredictable older brother. But here's the thing this time. I wasn't alone. My cousin Leah emailed me privately. Just 2 lines. Saw the email. Total BS. If you need a witness, I was there when she said you'll book it, right? Proud of you. I didn't respond right away. Just sat with it. That feeling of finally being seen. Danielle's boyfriend, Mark, reached out to Mr. Foster with an offer $4,000 in exchange for dropping everything. We declined. Mr. Foster replied with something so perfect. I screenshot it and saved it. We are not interested in partial accountability. Danielle didn't give up though. She posted a blurry selfie to her Instagram story. Eyes red, makeup smudged, captioned, "Some people will throw you under the bus the second you stop giving." Yeah, real subtle. I didn't engage. No replies, no subtweets, no vague stories. I wasn't playing PR cleanup for a mess I didn't make. Instead, I got to work. Not revenge, just rebuilding. I started eating better. Sleeping through the night, took on a new project at work. My boss noticed. Gave me a raise. Apparently not carrying emotional debt makes you more productive. Who knew? I moved into a new place. Nothing fancy, just mine. No surprise brunches, no guilt-tripped visits. Peaceful, quiet. I updated my emergency contacts. Took my mom off. Replaced her with Aunt Janine, who, by the way, sent me a card after everything blew up. You're not wrong. I wish I'd stood up to them sooner too. You're not crazy, you're just done. And that's okay. I cried when I read it. Not out of sadness, but because it was the first time someone in the family actually acknowledged what it cost me to finally say no. 2 months after the brunch, a check showed up in the mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Mark $1,200. And a note. I told her she was out of line. She didn't listen. I know this doesn't fix it, but I hope it helps. I'm sorry for my part in it. I didn't cash it. Not yet. But I didn't rip it up either. That same week, Danielle's influencer account went dark. Word got around that a travel brand had pulled their sponsorship after someone no idea who sent them documentation of the lawsuit. The family whispers started soon after. Uncle Greg said I was being vindictive. Cousin Riley said Danielle had been getting away with murder for years. Mom hasn't said anything at all. I don't think she knows how. When the golden child cracks, it's hard to spin. And me, I'm still standing. No fireworks, no victory dance. Just me, breathing easier, finally free from the weight of pretending everything was fine. And I still haven't heard Danielle say the word sorry. There's this thing no one tells you about peace. It's not dramatic. It doesn't show up with fireworks or applause. It's not some life-changing breakthrough where you finally feel healed. It's quieter than that. Subtle. It's walking into your apartment, setting your keys down, and realizing your chest doesn't feel tight anymore. It's eating dinner without checking your phone. Not because it's off, but because you're not waiting for another guilt bomb to drop. No sudden, hey, can you cover this one thing? No urgent family drama disguised as obligation. It's silence. And for the first time in your life, silence feels like freedom, not punishment. 3 weeks ago, I was sipping coffee at a little spot near my new place. Same barista, same order, same corner seat by the window. Just another Tuesday. That's when I saw someone I hadn't seen since high school. Josh used to sit behind me in calculus. He looked surprised, smiled, asked how I'd been. We did the usual small talk work, life, the weather. Then he leaned in a bit and said, "Hey, I heard what happened with your sister. That's wild." I froze for half a second, braced myself for the usual judgment. But he just nodded and added, "Good for you, man. Most people never get out." That stuck with me, because that's exactly what it felt like getting out. Like I'd escaped a maze I didn't even realize I'd been navigating my whole life. One where the walls were made of family duty, and the exit was always just out of reach, unless you were willing to set the whole thing on fire. And yeah, I guess I lit the match. Or maybe I just stopped pretending I didn't smell the smoke. Danielle, she's still quiet, at least publicly. Her lawyer eventually folded after Mr. Foster made it clear we weren't dropping anything unless the debt was paid in full. So she's paying it back now, not because she chose to, but because she didn't have a choice. I get a payment every month. It's set up automatically. She never says a word. The girl who once tagged every overpriced dinner with #bosslife and talked about manifesting abundance hasn't posted anything since the travel agency dropped her. Rumor is she's trying to rebrand. I don't care. Let her figure out what happens when people stop carrying the weight for her. That's not my business anymore. The family? Still weird. Still silent. Some cousins sent messages. Quiet support. Things like, "Wish I had your guts." Or "She always got away with stuff like that." Glad someone said it out loud. Others, not so much. Mom's side still avoids eye contact at gatherings. Dad pretends nothing happened. Like always. He sent me a birthday card with a $25 Amazon gift card taped inside and didn't mention anything else. Not even a note. Classic, Mom? She sent a message through Aunt Janine. Tell him we still love him, but we just wish he'd handled things differently. That was the last straw, honestly. Handled things differently? What, by staying quiet? By eating it again and pretending it didn't hurt? I ignored it. Didn't respond. Not because I was being petty, but because some conversations aren't worth reopening, especially when the door's been shut for a reason. Now, I'm good. Better than good. My work's steady. My place is calm. I've got time for myself again, real time. Not the leftover minutes after cleaning up other people's chaos. I've started running again. Nothing intense. Just laps around the park, earbuds in, mind clear. Sometimes I think about that brunch. That moment when Danielle opened the envelope and finally realized the world didn't revolve around her credit line. I don't relive it out of spite. I relive it because it's the moment I reclaimed something I didn't even realize I'd lost, my own damn life. And look, I know how this sounds. Some people might read this and say I overreacted, that I should have just talked it out. That family is messy, and you're supposed to forgive. But here's the thing they miss. I did forgive, 1,000 times, silently, with every unreturned loan, every forgotten promise, every dinner where I picked up the tab and the blame. I forgave so much that I stopped recognizing myself in the mirror. So no, this wasn't revenge. It wasn't an explosion. It was an exit, a choice, the first real choice I'd made in years. And I'd make it again. Sometimes people message me now, friends, coworkers, even old classmates. They read the post, or heard the story, or just noticed the shift in me. They always ask the same thing. Do you think you went too far? And my answer's always the same. Maybe. But it finally got them to listen. Sometimes that's what it takes. Not anger, not yelling. Just showing people that you're done asking to be treated with respect and you're ready to enforce it. So if you're reading this and you've got a Danielle in your life, someone who keeps pulling the same tricks and calling it family love, ask yourself this. When was the last time they paid you back? When was the last time you were allowed to say no? When was the last time you felt like your love didn't come with an invoice? Maybe it's time to set your boundary. And if you do, don't feel guilty. Because peace doesn't always come easy. Sometimes you have to fight for it, quietly, relentlessly. And when it finally shows up, you'll know. It won't be loud. It'll feel like exhaling after holding your breath for 10 years. Story 3. My niece's 8th birthday party was supposed to be a celebration. But it turned into something else, something I can't unsee. The party was held at my younger sister's house. Amanda, the one who thinks over the top is a personality trait. Her home looked like a Pinterest board, having a manic episode floral balloon arches, dessert stations with custom signage, and 2-tiered cupcakes that had more accessories than a red carpet outfit. She'd even hired someone to make cotton candy in her backyard. Amanda has twin daughters, Madison and Mia, and they were the stars of the day, as expected. Matching shirts, coordinated hairstyles, crowns, the whole royal treatment. We showed up around 2:00 p.m. My daughter, Nora, was 7 at the time. She clutched the cards she'd made by hand, one for each cousin, decorated with glitter stars and crooked letters that read "Happy Birthday." She had also picked out a sparkly headband that morning. "It makes me feel like I'm from space," she whispered proudly in the car. Nora gets nervous around crowds, so we practiced her birthday greeting twice in the parking lot. I told her how brave she was just for showing up, and I meant it. Inside, we tried to blend into the chaos. My husband and I hovered near the snack table, exchanging tight smiles with people we vaguely recognized, mostly Amanda's friends. My sister barely nodded at us. My mom gave me that look again, the one that says, "Keep it together." Dad didn't say much, just offered a grunt and went back to pretending the fruit tray required surgical precision. Then came the gift bags. Each one was handed out with ceremony. They were adorable, each kid's name spelled in glitter, with matching charms dangling from the handles. Inside, plush toys, personalized water bottles, mini puzzle sets. The kind of swag you might expect at a celebrity toddler's birthday. Until they got to Nora. Her bag was different. No glitter, no charm. Just a crumpled white paper bag with a crooked sticky note slapped across the front in my sister's handwriting. "Try harder next year." Nora blinked at it. Maybe she thought she was reading it wrong. She opened it anyway, slowly. Inside, a used eraser, a broken crayon, and a dusty peppermint that looked like it had been dug out of someone's purse lining. She didn't say anything. She just looked at me. I saw her little fingers inch toward mine, unsure. Her throat tightened like she was trying not to cry. And then the laughter. First from Amanda, that sharp, high-pitched laugh she uses when she's trying to show dominance. "She's been a bit of a handful lately," she said to the room. "Interrupting adults, crying over tiny things. We figured a little reality check wouldn't hurt. Then my mom chimed in, chuckling. Honestly, it's good for her. You coddle her too much. Even my dad snorted. Like this was all just awkward but harmless. The other kids didn't know why they were laughing. But kids are smart. They follow the lead. So they laughed too. And Nora? She smiled. That awful, trembling smile kids do when they're trying really hard not to fall apart. My husband crouched beside her, gently took the bag from her hands, and said, "You don't need this. Let's go get some real cake." We walked out without a word. At home, Nora curled up on the couch and pressed her birthday cards to her chest like they were a shield. "Was it because I didn't say thank you fast enough?" she asked. I said, "No, baby. It was because some people forget how to be kind." She nodded, not like she understood, but like she was trying to. Later that night, my husband made tea in silence. We didn't need words. This wasn't the beginning. It was the end. I paused the payments, he said finally. No more rent help, grocery card, nothing. I nodded. I walked to the drawer, pulled out a thick folder I'd been compiling for years. Screenshots, Venmo receipts, an email where Amanda begged me to watch her kids for a week while she had our set trip. Texts where our mom gossiped about me, like I was a stranger. I added one last thing to the folder, the sticky note. Try harder next year. Slid it into a clear sleeve. Right on top, my husband didn't say anything. He just nodded. Not like he was giving me permission, like he was saying finally, tomorrow I was going to deliver a message. Quiet. No confrontation. No shouting. Just truth. But the truth didn't start with Nora. That's the worst part. It started with me. Growing up, the rule in our house was, be easy, be useful, be invisible, unless you're being impressive. Amanda? She didn't have to follow those rules. She was the golden child. She didn't need to be impressive. Her existence was enough. My victories were treated like chores. Good job, my mom would mutter without looking up from her phone. Meanwhile, Amanda got a freaking sheet cake and a group text celebration because she got a B+ on a marketing quiz. When I got the lead in the school play, they didn't come. Amanda had a volleyball practice. Not a game, a practice. Every birthday, Amanda and I had joint parties, even though our birthdays were nearly 2 months apart. I got a side of cake. She got the spotlight. They'd say I was too emotional, too dramatic, too quiet, too loud. There were no bruises, no screaming, just this constant background hum of never being enough. And when I tried to name it at 17, telling my mom I might be depressed, she rolled her eyes and said, "Everyone thinks they're depressed. You're just bored." Amanda said I was being dramatic, then stole my charger. When I left for college, they didn't show up for move-in day. They sent a card late with $25 sand, a sticky note. Don't blow it. I didn't. I graduated, got therapy, learned words like emotional neglect and scapegoating. I met my husband. He actually listened when I talked. He actually cared. He was the first person who ever asked me what I wanted for my birthday and actually got it right. When Nora was born, I thought maybe, just maybe, things would change. That a new generation meant a new start. That they'd be better with her than they were with me. They weren't. The comments started small. Amanda criticizing Nora's outfits. My mom forcing her to hug people she didn't want to. My dad making fun of her for crying at loud noises. I explained. Gently at first. She has sensory processing issues. She needs support, not shame. They dismissed me. She's fine. You're overreacting. Amanda called me a snowplow parent. Said I was raising a doormat. Every boundary I set was met with mockery, silence, guilt tripping. And I let it go. Again and again. Because I wanted Nora to have a family. But what I wanted didn't matter. Not to them. She was just the next link in a long chain. Only now I had a choice. I could let them break her the way they broke me. Or I could stop it. I chose her. And now, they were about to find out what that meant. The next morning, we woke up before sunrise. Nora was still asleep on the couch, wrapped in the soft blanket my husband gave her last Christmas. The one that says, "You are safe, you are strong, you are loved." She'd fallen asleep holding her homemade birthday cards. Like maybe they were enough to keep the world from hurting her again. I stood by the kitchen window with a mug of coffee in my hands. My husband was at the table going through printouts, bank records, screenshots, all the evidence. The story of the last decade just in paperwork. At 4:07 a.m., I emailed Amanda's landlord, the one I'd been quietly paying every month to help keep a roof over her kids' heads. Rent was in her name, but the money came from my account. He replied 20 minutes later. Understood. I'll notify her of the updated balance today. At 4:49, my husband sent an email to the loan company for Amanda's car. The car she drives around like a badge of independence, it was in our names. Our money on the down payment. Our credit holding it up. She defaulted twice before. We saved her twice. Not this time. By 6 a.m., we printed everything: texts, emails, even group chat messages where Amanda called my daughter needy. Said she was just like her mom. Oversensitive. Exhausting. There was a voice memo too. A clip from 2 Christmases ago, my mother's voice, clear as day, whispering to Amanda while my husband recorded a family moment on his phone. Don't bother getting her anything nice. She never appreciates it anyway. They were talking about me. At 7:00 sharp, I slid all of it into a binder, labeled it family records, bound it with a red ribbon I found in the junk drawer leftover from one of Amanda's elaborate birthday setups. At 7:30, we got in the car. No words, no anger, just resolve. We pulled up to Amanda's house. Same balloon garland still hanging limp over the front door. My husband placed the folder on the doormat. We rang the bell and walked away. We were halfway down the block when it happened. That scream, not a normal scream, a ripped from your core scream, like something had finally snapped inside her. I didn't turn around. My husband's jaw was tight on the steering wheel, but I saw it just for a second, a small smile. Later, I heard the neighbor came out in his robe, saw Amanda flailing on the lawn, clutching the binder like it was on fire, and called the cops. She tried to say it was harassment, that I was ruining her life. The officers looked through the binder and calmly said, "This is a civil matter, MAAM." And it was. It wasn't revenge. It was the truth. By noon, my phone lit up like a slot machine. 38 messages from Amanda. The first few? Screaming in all caps, "You think this is funny?" Then came the guilt. "We're family. You can't do this to us." Then the begging, "Please. Please don't pull the payments. This was just a joke." Then threats. "If you don't fix this, you'll regret it." I didn't respond. My mom called 4 times. I listened to the third voicemail. "You've taken this too far. This family has always had problems, but you just lit a match. What do you want from us?" She still didn't get it. So I sent the digital folder to the rest of the family. No explanations, no commentary, just a subject line, in case you ever wondered why we stopped showing up. Within hours, replies started coming in. I had no idea. This explains everything. One cousin sent a single line, "Good for you." That was it. No drama, no confrontation, just light, finally reaching the cracks. 2 weeks later, the fallout hit. Amanda got notice from her landlord. She had 30 days to pay the full amount or face eviction. Her car loan was flagged. Late payments triggered an alert. She got a formal warning. My husband read the email aloud and raised his eyebrows. "Guess the safety net's gone." Then my parents called. Not me, my husband. Because they knew I wouldn't listen. "My mom's voice on speaker, please. She won't talk to us, but maybe she'll listen to you. Tell her we're sorry. Tell her she doesn't have to do this." My husband replied gently, like someone explaining to a child, "She's not doing this to you. You did it to yourselves." The next morning, they showed up at our house. Nora saw them through the window. Her face went pale. I opened the door just enough to step outside. My dad said, This is getting out of hand, I said. No, this is called consequences. My mom's eyes brimmed, but the tears never fell. We just want our family back. They left a card in the mailbox, a sympathy card. Inside, it said, "We miss our family." I mailed it back with a sticky note attached. So did I. A week passed, and something beautiful started to happen. Nora smiled more. She slept through the night. She made 2 new friends at school, both girls from art class, who didn't laugh when she wore noise-canceling headphones or needed extra breaks. One night, she came to me while I was folding laundry and said, "My heart doesn't feel buzzy anymore." That one got me. I hugged her so tight she squeaked. That weekend, we strung up fairy lights around her bed's soft ones that changed color like breathing. It felt like healing, real healing, not the kind you force, the kind you earn. But Amanda wasn't done. 10 days after the party, Nora came home from school with a note in her backpack. Pastel paper, little hearts, Amanda's handwriting. "If you ever feel sad or confused, remember Auntie Amanda loves you. You can always call me, even if your mom says no." Nora held it out to me like it was radioactive. "Did I do something wrong?" she asked. I didn't even answer. I called the school. Turns out Amanda used a fake name to drop it off. Said she was a family friend. No ID check, no questions. That afternoon, I filed a formal no-contact order with the school, the district, and the police. The next day, a cease and desist went out to Amanda, another to my parents. Then came the social media games. A fake account tagging me in posts like, "Some people forget who raised them. Just remember kids grow up." Then a selfie, Amanda crying. Caption, "When your own family turns on you." I didn't respond, but my cousins did. Screenshots of old messages, voice clips, receipts. And slowly, people started seeing the whole picture. My parents tried one last Hail Mary. An emergency Zoom call with the extended family. I didn't join, but others did. I heard from an aunt later someone finally asked, "Why wasn't she invited to Grandpa's birthday last year?" My mom froze. Another cousin asked, "Why was Amanda using the family emergency fund for spa weekends?" And someone else, quietly, "Is the birthday bag story actually true?" By the end of the call, 4 people had left the meeting. Amanda deleted her account. My parents stopped posting family photos. And then came the letter. Blue ink, fancy paper. "Family is messy. We made mistakes, but we're all we have. Don't let this distance become permanent. Your daughter will regret it. So will you." I didn't respond. Instead, I framed it, hung it beside the sticky note. "Try harder next year." Every time I walk past it, I remember. That was the day I stopped trying. Summer turned to fall, and for a while it got real quiet. Not peaceful quiet. More like the hush that settles before a storm breaks again. You feel it in your chest, not your ears. My sister had gone nuclear already. But after the initial meltdown, no more texts, no more voicemails. It was like the whole family was holding their breath, waiting to see what I'd do next. But there wasn't going to be a next. Not from me. We were done. 10 days after that family Zoom, Nora came home with her shoulders tight. She wasn't crying, but her eyes had that heavy look. I asked if something happened. She pulled a folded note from her backpack. Pastel paper again. Amanda's handwriting. Hearts in the corners. "If you ever feel sad or confused, remember Auntie Amanda loves you. You can call me anytime, even if your mom says no." Nora looked at me like she'd broken a rule just by carrying it home. "Did I do something wrong?" she whispered. I didn't yell. I didn't curse. I just felt something deep inside settle cold and still, like water turning to ice. This wasn't just disrespect anymore. This was manipulation. Targeted, personal, and it crossed every line I'd drawn. I called the school. Asked how Amanda even got access. Turns out, she used her friend's name. Said she was dropping something off for her niece. No ID check. No red flags. That same afternoon, I filed a no-contact order through the district and the local PD. I didn't scream at anyone, just filled out the paperwork and got it notarized. The next day, we sent a cease and desist to Amanda. One to my parents, too. 2 days after that, a fake Instagram account popped up tagging me in blurry photos from old holidays. Captions like, "Some people forget who raised them. Just remember kids grow up." One anonymous message read, "You're tearing your family apart. Hope you sleep well." That was the final crack. I forwarded everything to my lawyer, who then looped in local law enforcement. I didn't flinch, didn't fold, just built the paper trail, piece by piece. Meanwhile, Amanda posted a crying selfie captioned, "When your family turns on you, cue the sympathy parade," until the receipts started circulating. Screenshots from our group chat, Venmo logs, email threads, voice memos, all of it passed around quietly, like truth finally finding legs. One of my cousins messaged me privately. "I didn't know. I'm sorry. I'm here if you need anything." Another just sent a thumbs up and the word respect. A week later, my mom tried one last play. She sent a handwritten letter, the kind she usually reserved for funerals or overdue thank yous. Blue ink on thick paper, her name embossed in the corner. "Family is complicated. We all say things we regret, but we're still your parents. We're still her grandparents. Don't punish everyone over one misunderstanding. Nora will regret this distance one day. So will you." I didn't reply. I framed the letter, hung it next to the sticky note that started everything. "Try harder next year." And then I got back to living. Nora bloomed in ways that were so small and quiet, you'd miss them if you weren't looking. She started sleeping through the night, started drawing more stars, swirls, whole galaxies in pink and purple crayon. She stopped asking if she'd done something wrong. She made 2 close friends in art class, sweet, patient girls who didn't laugh when she needed a minute to step outside or wear her headphones during music hour. She was still sensitive, still soft, but she carried herself different now, like she trusted the ground under her feet for once. One morning, as we sat eating toast in silence, she looked up and said, "My heart doesn't feel like it's buzzing anymore." That sentence knocked the wind out of me. Not because it hurt, because I realized it wasn't supposed to buzz in the first place. At the end of the school year, Nora's class held a family day, just one adult per child. Cookies, juice boxes, little art displays lined the gym walls. She chose me, no hesitation, no glance at the door to see if anyone else was coming. Her art project was a painting, abstract. Swirls of purple and silver and tiny soft stars. In the corner, in neat little letters, she'd written, "Safe is better than big." The teacher asked if it was a quote from a book. Nora just shrugged. "It's from my mom. On the drive home, she asked if we could stop for ice cream. I said yes." She was quiet for a moment, then said, "Even if they never talk to us again, you did the right thing." I blinked hard. "Thanks, baby. That means everything." She leaned back in her seat and smiled, like she knew her heart was safe now. That night, I checked my email one last time before bed. One new message. No subject line. No greeting. Just 6 words. "Are you happy now? You won." I didn't respond. Because Amanda was wrong. I didn't win. I walked away. And for the first time in my life, I didn't look back. Sometimes I still think about that day. The glitter bag. The way my daughter looked at me like she was bracing for punishment. And I wonder what she'll remember. Not just about the party, but about everything. Will she remember the sticky note, the paper bag, the cold smiles from people who were supposed to love her? Or will she remember the ride home? Her dad telling her, "Let's go get some real cake." The soft blanket. The fairy lights. The art class girls who laughed with her instead of at her. I don't know. But I know what she won't have to remember. The years of biting her tongue. The feeling of always being too much or not enough. The tight smile when people laugh, and you don't know why. Because I stopped it in time. Now I want to ask you, if it were your child, would you have done the same? Would you have walked away? Fought harder? Stayed silent? Tell me in the comments, did I do the right thing or did I go too far?